Welcome, welcome, welcome. I don't need this earpiece because from here on out, we're flying by automatic pilot right here at the desk. Now, look, I was listening to Bannon, I was listening to Frank Appiah, those of you that are following the show right after that show, War Room, and, Frank's talking about China there, Mercedes, and I'm talking about my allergies. And I apologize, but my nose is at any moment going to be a disruption. We don't know what's going to happen. It could be some kind of like the news cycle. It could just break in upon us and interrupt us. But if that happens, understand that this Kleenex represents my attempt to clean up what's going on. So anyway, I got this terrible allergy going on. The thing that, I'm not going to talk about the school shooting. Everybody is obviously traumatized over that. And the secret to getting perspective is not to continuously re-traumatize you. So we should not be surprised. Those of you that are fourth-turning students know that these are societal convulsions that reveal what Bannon has been talking about regarding the fourth turning, which is this period of time of great instability as these warring powers that define a future contend with each other, whether it's the Civil War or the Revolutionary War or the Second World War. This war is always there. It involves the conflict of competing worldviews and the dysfunction of human beings. If the gospel, I got a Bible on my desk, if Christianity is applied, wars cease. Prophet Isaiah says that when Jesus comes back, they will beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks, meaning the implements of war are going to be vastly conspicuous prior to the time of Jesus returning. Because human beings without Christ have very little sophistication, let alone bandwidth for being able to deal with differences. And I listened to this strange I should call it strange, but I should say it's a predictable meltdown in the way that people are dealing with tragedy. Everyone gets their emotions stirred, and then you get your emotions stirred, and immediately you want to do something, kick the dog, find someone to blame. But the problems are often more complex, and the root of the problem is not the branch. The branch is a kid with a gun. The branch is the incompetence of police who for an hour and 15 minutes are nervously uncertain and confused as to what to do. The root of it is what makes an 18-year-old do something stupid and self-destructive and demonic. And clearly, you can trace it back now to some real roots. The family. Where's the dad? I could probably, I don't even have to do this for you. I could have a Jordan Peterson moment here, put on a Canadian accent and quote to you how 98% of all crime that is done in the United States is done from the byproduct of males, and males primarily without fathers and family structures and incompleting high school, not having discipline and not having mechanisms to enculturate them in community where they develop empathy and an understanding of how human beings coexist. 98% of violent crime is rooted to that, regardless of race or gender, but it's primarily males. There's my Jordan Peterson moment. What does that mean? That means that the majority of violent crime comes down to fatherless sons, boys that need dads, dads that are engaged in their life in healthy ways, dads that are engaged in their life in meaningful ways, intact family units, father and mother. This isn't what the American culture is all about. The modern American left and pop culture is all about destroying the model of moms and dads. And then you got schools where the teachers' unions, we've been fighting them for so long. The unions are competing with the parents for the right to have control of the classrooms and the children, and then the curriculum. The curriculum isn't teaching morality. It isn't teaching moral right and wrong. It isn't teaching the concept of the fear of God. I'd be curious. I know in Muslim nations, they have violence. I just watched, some news underreported. 23 Christians have forced to kneel down and get their heads blown off. And I can't even remember. Was it Nigeria now? But it was a Muslim section of a nation. And it was purely done as a result of insane hatred of Christians. I could point that out to you, but for the most part, the kind of Muslim insanity and demonic behavior isn't the school shootings. It's a different kind. It's a weird kind of nations have their own pathologies, but they have a strong religious ethic. So in a weird way, when they're killing you, they try to bring religion into it, but they don't have mass shootings that are random and indiscriminate, because that's their religion actually prohibits that kind of thing. What I'm saying is that even in Muslim nations, you don't have the kind of lawlessness in the way that you have it manifest in the United States. You have shootings, sure but you have a different species of culture, is what I'm saying. And our culture was not designed to be enforced by a political system. It's designed to be enforced by a moral system. And in that moral system, we don't have the glue that holds us together anymore. And so you're seeing us fragment and fall apart. And I'm wondering what's going to come out of this in terms of the debate, because the debate's going to devolve by the manipulation of media into guns. Guns are a branch of the issue. They are not the root. So it's kind of like the SUV that drove to the parade in Wisconsin. Well, the SUV wasn't the crime or the criminal. It was the driver. But the driver happened to have been a Black Lives Matter nationalist type crazy guy. And so it was an inconvenient truth for the left. So they wanted to put the focus on the vehicle to the point of absurdity, where they didn't want to define the race, gender, or ideology or social media trail of the driver. But that's what happens. The media can't be trusted because they're all spinning narratives. And so here again, it comes down to something. When we say America needs a spiritual awakening, understand what we really mean. We mean that the grassroots is going to have to develop its own consensus of a prevailing code of conduct that is rooted and grounded in the reality of God and the morality of Christ, which is to do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And we're going to have to be aggressive about this, because the void and the vacuum that's being created in culture will produce more 17-year-olds being mentored without dads, and what they're doing all day is watching. What's the name of the game he was playing for hours every day? What was it?
Call of Duty.
Call of Duty. So describe Call of Duty.
It's like a first-person shooter game. I think it's a military game. But it's like, I mean, there's so many different games out there that's like that, but you go around and you play in teams a lot of times. So you're on team A, team B, and you like shoot each other. But I think too, Lance, along with this idea of the breakdown of the family, I also think the idea of, just the sanctity of the human life, the value of human life, every human life, I think has been eroded within culture. And so it's like the same idea of, you can murder babies in the womb. Heck, you could murder babies after they're born. If you change your mind and it's inconvenient for you, you could go ahead and do that in some states, ideas like that being put forward. And so what does that tell you? I mean, what message are you communicating to an entire generation that, you evolved from rocks. Some water came off of some rocks and that went into the water, and then we mutated and we were like fish, and then we came up. I mean, it's just, there's no, like, what I love about religion and about especially Christianity is that what we believe is you're made in the image of a creator God. You have the same fingerprints of like God's DNA on you, and so it's you feel unique. It's like every person is, I don't want to say like a snowflake, but every person is unique. Every person has a specific they're on this earth with a problem to solve, and God has a plan for their life. Every single person. And
the new intellectuals, the swarmy, smug intellectuals like Sam Harris that say, well, you don't need to have a religion to have morality. Well, he's flipping wrong. Mm-hmm. You don't have a viral morality spread without a whole lot of story and experience and tradition to reinforce it. I don't care. That's what religion does. Mm-hmm. But the idea that a morality is ever going to be a substitution for the fear of God is just not going to fly. Mm-hmm. For the very reason you mentioned. If in evolutionary thinking, your origin is a glob of goo that made it to you by the way of the zoo, then you're an animal and a primate, and you might as well just hedonistically have as much sex with as many people as you can, and just try not to do it with children and spread disease. Mm-hmm. And so now you've set the boundaries of society to the point where the intact family unit is under assault. By the way, Black Lives Matter is notorious for getting away with, and these idiotic corporations that fund them should all be like, I should have like a flogging, cartoon or something for every corporation that has funded this ideology, that in its first in its iteration, its first generation, they had to do such a cleanup on their website because BLM, their number one goal was to attack heterosexual marriage. Putting it in English, attack every marriage form other than gay, queer, lesbian, or bisexual unions or multiple partners. In other words, doesn't matter what you got, but we're going to dismantle men and women as a family unit. You talk about a stupid, dumb, demonic agenda. It's like, and this is your Bill of Rights. This is your number one goal. What's your number two? It just went downhill from there. And then like we took screenshots of their website. I said, I can't believe these guys. It's a psychological moment. Like everybody's all traumatized with George Floyd, which is why Barack Obama brings George Floyd up. That guy should be, we got to send him away like Napoleon was sent to the Isle of Elba or something. This guy should not be around. Every other president has a decency to keep their mouth shut. This guy can't stay out of it. He has to be a community organizer. His comment while Americans are flying apart and freaking out and all crazy because they all can imagine they're a little 11-year-old and is with a terrorist shooting people up for an hour and 15 minutes and no police going in when they're surrounding a building. I mean, it's maddening, just the thought of this thing. And Obama goes, yeah, it makes you think of George Floyd. Really pisses you off, doesn't it? It's like, oh, that's really helpful there, Sherlock Holmes. That's a brilliant sermon. Let's comfort the 9/11 survivors by talking about the danger of bombs in the cockpit. So, the thing that I'm most focused on right now is that until and unless we have a conversation about root causes, and until and unless we are courageous about calling out those agencies that are manipulating the conversation away from root causes, we're really not having a Jordan Peterson conversation. We're not having an intelligent one, and we're not dealing with facts.
There is so much more waiting for you over at lancewallnau.com/podcast. This was only an excerpt. This isn't the whole episode. There's so much over there. Be sure you go check it out. lancewallnau.com/podcast. See you over there. You know, everybody talks about being prepared. What happens when the bubble bursts? What happens when the dollar collapses? Are you ready? Are you prepared? Do you have emergency food kits? Do you have gold and silver? I want to talk to you about something you might not have heard of yet, and it's called hydroponic gardening. And it is one of the coolest things I have secretly fallen in love with over the last 8 to 9 months. I have an entire gardening system, and let me tell you what, it's enough food not to just feed my family, but to feed my neighbors. I have 36 different types of plants growing in this thing. I have lettuce, I have beans, I have strawberries. I have so many different things, and it's just one more tool in my arsenal to making sure that I'm ready to take care of my family and my friends and my neighbors if need be. And so I want to tell you about it. It's this really cool system. It's called Let Us Grow. And if you're interested in finding out more and finding out how you can have one of these, it grows vertically. It's a hydroponic garden. You might not even know what that means. It's an entire system where it's just water-based. There isn't a ton of dirt. You don't have to worry about bugs and pests or anything like that because you can actually do this in your home, which means you can grow plants year round. It's so cool. I just did it through the entire fall and winter. And like I said, I have just had such abundance with it. So I want you to check it out. You can go to lancewallnau.com/garden and get all of the details on the Let Us Grow system. And be sure you stay tuned because I just put one together for the office, and it took me less than 10 minutes to put the entire system together, and it just snaps together. You fill it up with water, you give the plants their nutrients. 30 minutes per week is all you're looking at for maintenance. So I'm telling you, go check it out. I'm going to have before and afters on the screen when I'm talking about this so you can see the type of abundance I'm talking about. Be prepared. Go to lancewallnau.com/garden to find out more.